Hi guys, this is Stu from Mobile Geeks, and today we're going to have a look at a very popular phone in China from a company called Oppo. This here is the Oppo N1. But we're not just going to look at the N1, we're also going to compare it to a clone of the N1. That's right. In China, if you're a famous device maker, you're going to have clones chasing after you. So here we have the iNew. This is the iNew V8. And although we do consider this to be a clone because of the incredible similarity between the two. I mean, obviously, side by side, the main difference is size. But apart from that, iNew have done everything they can pretty much to imitate and get as close as they can to the Oppo N1 that we have right here. Okay, so let's just have a quick little overview of the specifications. This guy here is a 5.9 IPS LCD screen here on the Oppo, and it's actually a 1080p. It's actually a full HD screen. Whereas over here on the iNew, we've got a smaller 5.5 inch, also IPS LCD, but over here we've got 720p. So HD, but not full HD. So definitely we can see a disparity straight away between the two devices. I guess I should also mention, first of all, that there is a big difference in price. So as we go through these specifications, you're going to notice that, of course, the Oppo N1 here has superior specifications because it's pretty much a $500 smartphone. This is a real high-end smartphone, whereas what we've got here with the iNew is more like a $250 kind of smartphone. So there are obviously going to be big differences, and the first thing that stands out is, of course, the two screens, 720p versus 1080p. Inside, you're also getting a different processor. Here on the N1, you're getting a Snapdragon 600. It's not the most powerful, of course. The 801 right now is the top dog from Qualcomm, but the 600 is a previous gen, so it's still pretty impressive. Well, over here we're having what's very common in China, of course, is a MediaTek platform on the iNew V8. Over here you're getting the MediaTek MT6591T, which is actually, unusually, it's a hexa-core CPU, 6 cores. On the N1, you're getting 2 GB of memory, whereas here on the iNew, you're only getting 1 GB. So I guess in terms of processor and performance, we would expect the N1 to be completely superior to the iNew. In terms of micro SIM support, you have no micro SIM, unfortunately, on the Oppo N1, but you do here on the iNew. Inside, you're getting 16 GB of memory. The N1 ships with either 16 GB or 32 GB, depending on the model that you actually choose. Now, of course, the main feature, I guess, the crucial feature which kind of dominates both of these devices is the camera. So here we're getting a 13 megapixel camera, but the cool thing is it swivels around. So even though it's a rear-facing camera, it can easily be swiveled around so you can do really good quality selfies. So if you're a selfie fan, this is definitely the phone of choice for you. Over here in the iNew, we have a very similar 13 megapixel camera. It's not actually identical, but it's of a similar ilk, I guess, and it has the same swivel design. Okay, other differences, as you can see, I'll just turn these guys off for a second so we can compare. Size-wise, obviously, you're looking at very there's a major discrepancy there. Because this is a 5.9 screen, this is a 5.5 inch screen. But in terms of thinness, we actually notice that the Oppo is slightly thicker at 9mm, whereas the iNew comes in at 8.3mm. There's also a substantial difference in terms of weight. The N1 is a weighty phone. It's 213 grams. So this is definitely, you're going to feel this if it's in your pocket. The iNew, there's a little bit better than that, is 166 grams, as you would expect. And if it does, there's a big difference here between the two devices and the way they feel in your hand. One other major difference is that you're getting 2 different flavors of Android. Even though they look quite similar, what we've seen here on iNew is they've done everything they can to try and replicate what we have on the N1 in terms of the icons and also the wallpaper. But I guess the major difference here is that you're actually getting KitKat here on the iNew. That's Android 4.4.2, whereas the Oppo N1 actually is Android 4.2. Okay, so that's the old jelly bean. The difference from a user's point of view isn't that great, actually. I think if we look further into the software, we can see that actually Oppo have a little bit more of a sophisticated user experience with their Color OS, which is their own kind of proprietary Android UI. In terms of battery, you're getting a 3,610 milliamp hour battery here in the Oppo, which is going to last you all day, no problem. And also over here, you've got a 2,400 milliamp hour on the iNew. which is actually quite a big difference. But when you take into account the larger screen over here, that kind of balances it out. This is a smaller device, this is a smaller screen, so I guess 2,400 milliamp hour is actually quite substantial. It's more than enough. If we get into the hardware a little bit more detail, let's have a look at the back here. Just turn both of these devices over, turn them off. You can see that although they're very similar, apart from the logos of course, they're actually a very different feel. On the Oppo here we have a kind of like a polycarbonate kind of plastic. It is plastic, of course, but it actually feels quite well made and professional. But one thing I don't like about the Oppo actually is that this is non-removable. You cannot take the back off here. You cannot access the battery. It's a non-removable battery, and as I mentioned earlier, there's no micro SIM support. Micro SD support. You get your SIM card in right here on this edge. You can see there's a little slot that just popped right out there. On the iNew, however, if I just grab this for a second, you can pull this off. Take a look. You can see this is a removable battery, and the great thing is, of course, you've got dual SIM support. So rather than just the one slot, you've got the one regular size slot here. You've also got a nano slot right next to it, and a micro SD slot, which we're very happy about. You can also see that the speakers are in a different location too. The speaker on the iNew is placed right here on the back, whereas on the N1, it's actually located right here on the bottom. Okay, we'll just pop that back for a second. In terms of build quality, generally speaking, I think, you know, the difference in price is kind of reflected in the build quality. This, I mean, the iNew feels like a good device, but the Oppo really does feel like a high-end smartphone. It's, as I mentioned, it's quite weighty, but the finish is actually very attractive and very nice. It's a shame that we can't take the back off and access the battery, but I guess this kind of design, you know, you don't want the kind of flexibility that sometimes you can find with a plastic back like here. There's a little bit of give in there. And the feel here is just regular plastic. There's nothing very special about this at all. Okay, if we look at let's have a quick look at the software for a moment. You can see they're very similar once you get in there. They have the same, they've really tried to mimic the same icons. But overall, you're getting a much slicker kind of experience here on the Oppo N1. Here we can change the effects we have with transitions. This is something we've seen before with Cyanogen and lots of others. But over here, you're getting no such thing. You're getting a choice of some very basic looking widgets. If we look at the widgets here in the N1, you can see that they're actually a little bit kind of classier. They look a lot better. So the difference in terms of Android, this is a newer version of Android, but overall, Oppo with their Color OS have done a very good job. If we look in here, we can see we have this is a drop down menu, but we can pull that down further and we can reveal a lot more options. Whereas over here we're getting something which is kind of similar to what we've seen before with MediaTek, and we can scroll along like so. So the implementation in terms of software is different. In terms of apps, we go into the app drawer here. We can see, for example, if I just pull up okay, let's look at the camera app. They're very similar, but I think generally speaking, there's a little bit more finesse on the Oppo compared to the iNew. Let's have a look at the calendar here, compared to the calendar here. Yeah, this is your basic kind of, this is much more similar to what you would expect to see kind of on a vanilla flavored device, whereas Oppo here have actually done quite a good job of customizing the apps that are included. I'll just go into settings for a moment. Where's the settings button? Here we go. We can see that there are similarities. Here we have general, and here we have sound and display. You've kind of got a similar thing going on, although it's at the bottom here on the iNew also. You've got this is your general kind of familiar Android settings list. Here we got specific audio options, display options, and then the end here they've put security options, which also includes a bunch of stuff about your accounts that you're logged into. Okay, so in terms of software, I think definitely Oppo is more sophisticated. What we've got over here on the iNew is kind of similar to what we've seen on a lot of other MediaTek devices. Let's just have a look at these displays for a second. As you can see, we've got the brightness. Just kind of go in here. We can see the brightness is turned up to the maximum. So the screen is bright. I mean, it's nothing compared to, say, a Galaxy S5 or even a Sony Xperia. The viewing angles are okay. I think overall, for a 1080p screen, I mean, we've seen some fantastic screens recently. I mean, if you compare this to the OnePlus, for example, it's nowhere near. But then again, it is quite a large screen. It's a 373 pixels per inch. You're getting 5.9 in a full HD, so it's decent. It's it's a good quality display, but it's not excuse me, it's not quite flagship quality in my point of view. Over here, the 720p display, the brightness is not bad, but as you can see, the display angles are actually not that impressive, if we're being completely honest. Let's see if we can open up our gallery app here. Let's have a look at a few images. Let's have a look at some of our standard test images for a second. You can see, yeah, as you're moving from angle to angle, definitely there's a degradation in the clarity and the color. The blacks look okay, I guess, but once you get to, yeah, it's not so bad. I think for a 720p screen, the iNew is actually not that bad. I mean, for a $250 device, it's reasonable. Let's have a look at the gallery app right here. We can see on our 1020p, our 1080p, I would say that, we'll just open this app again. Okay, so let's have a look at a side by side here. I think the colors here on the M1 are much kind of more vivid. The brightness levels, I don't know, they're kind of similar, but I would say that over here on the iNew, you've kind of got a little bit of, the color accuracy isn't that great. I would say that there's a little bit of a hue, kind of like a bluishness going on, whereas the color and the clarity here is actually reasonably good. So there you have the displays. We took a bunch of photos, of course. We've been taking lots of photos with this, and the camera is actually a decent camera. It's a 13 megapixel. If you're taking selfies, you're going to be very impressed. I'm not a big selfie guy personally. Let's have a look at some of these photos that we've taken. Just go over here, back into our photo gallery. You can see some of these pictures. Actually, this was the typhoon just a few days ago. Some of these pictures, I mean, this is standard. This is with HDR, so it kind of brightens things up. And if we go in here, the detail is not that great. So compared to what we've seen on the Lumia series from Nokia and a couple of other high-end devices, actually the images are not that impressive, if we're being completely honest. Okay, so let's have a quick look at, we'll check out the photos. So here we have a gallery app. Let's just go up and check the app. So here we can see that you have a little bit more of a sophisticated gallery app. This is indicative of the ColorOS as a whole compared to a much more vanilla kind of thing we've got going on over here on the V8. Let's take a look at one or two of these images that we've taken with our camera, the 13 megapixel right here. This is a perfect day, kind of nice and sunny, bright day in Taipei. Let's see if we can zoom in here. Let's pinch out. Let's move across. Let's zoom in on this bit of tape right here. Now I think that's quite impressive. That's very clear, very sharp. The colors look good. So in perfect conditions and a bright sunny day in Taiwan, no problem. If we go to a low light situation, here we are at the end of the day, and you can see that it's doing okay. But this one we took using the night mode, so it does have the capacity to take decent photos in reasonably low light situations. Okay, we'll just put that down for a second and we'll compare now to, what do we have here? Let's have a look. Let's have a similar picture. Okay, let's go in and see how this piece of tape looks. Now here, I think actually that's also pretty impressive. So in ideal conditions, I think both of these cameras are doing quite well. The one difference we did notice, however, was in low light conditions, we found if you compare the two here, we've got the V8 is giving you a kind of bluish hue to everything, which obviously we're not a fan of. This was happening in all kind of low light situations. I mean, this is looking very blue. So I think, yeah, the color is a little bit off. Maybe that could be tuned a little bit better. So there you have cameras. Overall, definitely the N1 is a little bit of a better quality camera, although especially in terms of selfies. I mean, if you're going to take, let's have a look at one of these selfies that we took. Where am I? Here you go. So now you're getting 13 megapixel selfies, which is, again, I guess if you're into that, this is a really, really wicked feature. Personally, I'm not a big selfie guy. Maybe the ladies out there would appreciate it more. I'm not so sure. Okay, let's move on. Let's have a look at the audio. So we've got our two audio apps installed here, and we've got the same song loaded on both. Let's first of all start with the iNew. Okay, so that's on full blast. It's pretty loud, but it is a little bit tinny. It's not exactly a balanced kind of bassy sound. Let's compare that to what we have here on the N1. Let's turn up the volume. Now for me the difference is immediately apparent. I'm not sure whether that's clear to you if you're watching this on YouTube, but this speaker around the bottom is definitely a better quality speaker on the N1. We'll just play them side by side again. Yeah, the difference is night and day. You're getting a much better audio experience here on the N1 than you are on the iNew. So of course on these two devices we've run our whole suite of benchmarks. Let's have a look. And you can see there is a significant difference in terms of performance. The Qualcomm Snapdragon 600 is actually nowhere near the performance of the 800 series that we're used to seeing on the HTC One M8, the Samsung Galaxy S5, the OnePlus One and others. But the performance is still pretty superior to what we're seeing on the MediaTek. On some benchmark scores, we actually found that the MediaTek did better because it's got a 6 cores compared to quad cores. But of course, that depends on software. But generally speaking, if we look, you can see in terms of speed, they're pretty similar. I think overall the M1 is a little bit slicker. We have seen this guy stutter once or twice, but overall, I think in terms of performance, there's not a great deal in it. I think they're both very, very apt and able. In terms of 3D gaming, this guy's going to have the edge because, of course, we know MediaTek, the GPU is not the best. If we look at the 3D Mark scores, it's way off compared to what you're getting here with the Adreno GPU. In terms of battery life, we're getting all-day battery life, but on our laptop magazine battery test, this guy actually did a little bit better. So the 3,600 milliamp hour battery is giving you around 8 hours of solid use. That's basically opening and closing the browsers with Wi-Fi on and also full brightness. Whereas over here on the V8, the iNew V8, we're getting actually quite comparable. It's more like 7 hours in our test. So I think both of these guys are doing very well in terms of battery, although I am a fan of the removable battery here in the iNew. One of the more interesting features implemented here on the N1 is a concept from Oppo called O-Touch. And you can see I'm using it right now. How am I navigating the screen without touching it? Well, I'm using the back. Right here, there's a small square, can you see that in the light? Which indicates the area that you can use with your finger to navigate. Now, if I double tap, we're launching the dialer. I double tap again, takes it away. How am I doing that? Okay, well we can configure that in settings. We go to O-Touch and we can see that we've customized this so that double tap launch or quit phone. I can choose that to launch any app that's installed on my device. There are also other options here. So if I hold for 5 seconds, I'm going to take a photo. That's what this one does right here. See, it indicates 5 seconds, takes a photo with the back of the device. You can also choose to record in line of Facebook. You can also tap to control the music that's playing. Now, we have been using this device for a good week or so now, and actually I found the O-Touch to be a little bit infuriating. I found that I have apps happening and things going on kind of while it's in my pocket or even in my bag. So for me, O-Touch, nice idea. Congratulations to Oppo for implementing it, but it's something that I would frankly turn off. Now, if we look over here on the iNew, we've got something similar, although it's not called O-Touch. We go into, touchpad. So inside touchpad, we again, you can see the so there you go. Right now, this is what's happening. I'm tapping the back here, but accidentally, it's happening just as I'm holding the device. So you can kind of see the problems that this kind of rear side touchpad can create. But again, you've got similar options to what we've seen on the N1. So iNew have done a good job of mimicking this feature, the O-Touch feature here on the iNew. But again, for me, for both of these guys, I would just skip it. There are other gestures too. Well, not gestures, let's have a look here. We can see this is a gesture panel. If I go circle, it's going to open up the camera app. Excellent. And if I pull it down again, if I do a V, there you go. Now we've enabled the torch, which goes like so. Okay, so we got, yeah, some sophisticated gesture stuff going on there. I'm not sure if you guys are going to be a fan of that. If you are, let me know in the comments below. But frankly speaking, I think Touch is an interesting idea, especially I guess on a device of this size. Maybe I think the concept is because your finger's kind of here, so why not use it to navigate? Okay, so in conclusion, what do we think? Now, the N1 is a real flagship device from Oppo. It's a very large device, and I think for a lot of people this is going to be a little bit too big. The weight as well, over 200 grams, it's also quite a bit of heft. So I think that might put some people off. The iNew, however, 5.5-inch screen, I think is a little bit more doable. I think a lot of people are going to kind of prefer the smaller form factor. So in terms of size, I don't know, I tend to incline towards the 5.5-inch rather than 5.9 phablet, which is a little bit large even for me. Another major difference, of course, is the finish and the build quality. Oppo definitely feels more like a flagship device, whereas the iNew, the finish is a little bit cheap, a little bit plastic. Generally speaking, white is not my favorite color either. It tends to get dirty very easily. I mean, I cleaned this up before we started recording the video today, but really, even just sit in my pocket and just kind of regular use, it can get a little bit dirty. One thing I would also say about the Oppo is the position of the buttons. This rocker switch for me is just too low down. I'm not so sure. I personally, I prefer maybe the power button to be around here, maybe the rocker switch are in the upper part. But what they've done is they've put it quite low down, which frankly I'm not a fan of. The other complaint I would have with the N1 is also you're not getting a micro SD slot. I really enjoy having like a lot of music and videos and stuff on my micro SD, and that's something I think the iNew definitely has the upper hand here. Other things I would say for the price, generally speaking, I would probably, I mean, if this is my money, this is 250 bucks, this is 500 bucks. I would probably go for the iNew because, well, it doesn't have, I think the button positioning is better for me personally, the size is better, the performance is fine. 720p screen for 250 bucks is absolutely totally acceptable. There's no issues there. The camera, I'm not a huge selfie fan, but the camera is a decent 30 megapixel camera, and I guess you do have the option if you want to take good quality selfies that you have that there. Although for me, you know, this is extending the device, it's making longer, it's taking up extra space. Am I a big fan of it? Not really. I think somebody who really enjoys taking selfies would appreciate this phone probably more than I. So on the whole, I think I would probably give the nod to the iNew V8. Thank you guys. If you like this kind of stuff, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and make sure you leave your comments in the space below. Cheers guys, this is Stu from Mobile Geeks, bye bye.
What?